But anyway, this is the greenhouse. And we're winning ribbons. That's the point. You know, first place, second place, third place. I have welfare mothers growing Phalaenopsis orchids in the middle of a place that was devastated during the riots. Now, if that's not rebirth and reconstitution, then you tell me what is rebirth.
Now, I was busy in LA.
King was shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they burned this whole thing down. This was a shopping center. They had a big giant eagle sitting right here. They burned it to the ground. And so it's my neighborhood, so we rebuilt it, one building at a time. Now we're growing orchids here. And that's a swords to plowshares deal, you know, right?
Oh, look at it.
That's our lab where we teach the students. But come on, we'll go into the main.
I love the way the lights. Is that because the lights just came on or something? Look, it's beautiful light.
We just hosted the Orchid Society here. We had vendors, everybody, all the hip orchid growers in Pennsylvania were here last weekend for 3 days.
Are there a lot of orchid growers?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And have they ever been to a place like this?
No.
Usually I imagine you orchid people are more snooty, like people out in the country.
Well, there's that, plus they're all kind of in these little, you know. I said, if we're going to build something, we're going to build something. And they all walked in and said, holy smokes, man, what is this? I said, this is my concept of a greenhouse. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's go to scale. It was hip, man, to have all these orchid people here in the north side, right? In a black center growing orchids.
This is not your typical, I've never been to other orchid greenhouses. So
They ain't like this. Now, you appreciate this irony, since we're talking about Pittsburgh. You recognize that company, don't you?
Yeah, the Alcoa doors, yeah.
You recognize what's underneath that? That's Dutch. You know why? Because the facility to make this stuff is in Holland. It's not in Pittsburgh. And Elaine Bell, the chairman of Alcoa, came to the opening and he looked around and says, holy smokes, this stuff really does work. Hello? The way I got into orchids is, a buddy of mine came over to the house for a party and he brought an orchid. And he gave me this orchid and I said, what the hell is that? He said, it's an orchid. So I looked at it for like, you know, a couple of weeks and I said, this is cool, man. So I bought a book of orchids for beginners and I started reading about it. Then I started visiting greenhouses out in California. And after about the 4th greenhouse, I said, shit, I can do that. So that was the genesis of building the greenhouse. I said, I'm going to build one in Pittsburgh. It took me 7 years.
Well, I'm sure people immediately embrace the idea of orchids in Pittsburgh.
Oh, sure. On the north side of Pittsburgh. But they embrace it now because you come over here and I got students thriving, man. We're selling this stuff to Giant Eagle, Whole Foods, Toad Flex, Tim Condren. We'll do $400,000 this year in orchid sales.
And the students get to participate in...
They grow the product. It's part of their training. And all the money comes back to support the education program. It's the perfect circle.
Now, these orchids are tricky flowers to grow, aren't they?
Not if you know what you're doing, which these people do know what they're doing. That's why they're winning awards.
Do you remember? I'll tell. So when Jim Roddy...
The Santorum in the United States Senate, and you know, he came off the floor, he says, what do you want? I says, Rick, I'm going to build a orchid facility in Pittsburgh. He says, what did you say? I said, I'm going to build an orchid facility, man. He said, okay, well, whatever. So he shows up at the groundbreaking 2 years later, out here. Santorum gets up and he says, when Bill Strickland approached me at the United States Senate talking about growing orchids on the north side of Pittsburgh, I did not leap from my chair with enthusiasm, but I'm leaping now. This is something fantastic. And Bill, you can count me in for the next move. What's your next move? I said, I'm going to grow tomatoes in McKeesport on an old steel mill site. He said, this time I'm going to sign up first. So those tomatoes that we're growing in there, we're going to do that in McKeesport, 2 acres, 80,000 square feet. I got a deal going with Penn State, they're in on it, and we're going to train the next generation of African American kids who are going to grow advanced agricultural products in the Mon Valley, just like they do in Holland and Europe. Holland is cold, Pittsburgh's cold. Holland's gray, Pittsburgh's gray. Why the hell can't you grow tomatoes in Pittsburgh?